Is this the best way to fly across the Atlantic? Maybe it's not the most comfortable option, but it's certainly one of the best ways to fly across the Atlantic on a budget. Today, we're catching a ride with Norse Atlantic Airways with their premium class service. While the term low-cost carrier often brings with it pictures of cramped and uncomfortable seats, today we're going to find out just how Norse Atlantic strives to break free of that model. Come along with me today as we explore what is certainly one of the roomiest premium economy products, as we find out if Norse Atlantic is able to offer a service level on par with what is offered by full-service airlines, or is Norse Atlantic Premium just a well-veiled attempt by a low-cost carrier to elevate a no-frills airline seat with slightly more room? Find out the answer to all that and more today on Linking Adventures. Now it's time for us to make our way to Oslo's Gardermoen Airport, where it is time to check in and start our journey. This afternoon, we're starting our journey in Oslo's Gardermoen Airport, the headquarters of Norse Atlantic Airways, a relatively new airline that started service back in 2022, rising out of the ashes of the post-pandemic rubble that was Norwegian Air Shuttle's transatlantic service. While Norse aggressively markets they are a brand new airline, it's also a simple fact that they wouldn't exist were they not able to purchase their fleet comprising of 12 Boeing 787-9 aircraft from Norwegian. This afternoon, we're starting our journey here as we hop on one of their 787s crossing the Atlantic. We're boarding this afternoon around 4 p.m. before landing in Miami, Florida some 10 hours later around 8 p.m. local time, where I'll have just enough time to clear customs and catch another flight back home to Nashville all in the same day. I arrive at the check-in desk today to a rather crowded check-in area. You see, since there are limited flights out of Oslo with Norse, check-in is only open 4 hours before each flight, and since Norse is a low-cost carrier, each passenger must check in person and get their bags weighed. Economy passengers are limited to a single 10-kilogram carry-on, while as a premium passenger, I'm afforded an additional 5 kilograms. Luckily for me, as a premium passenger, there is a separate line, and it only took me about 30 minutes to check in. However, if you're in the economy cabin, the line looked to be quite long, so maybe give yourself an extra hour for check-in. Norse Atlantic offers several different fare levels consisting with the a la carte model used by most low-cost carriers. When I originally selected my seat, I went with the premium light fare since I am traveling carry-on only. Both the Premium Classic and the Premium Flextra fares offer more options, but only the Premium Flextra seat offers seat selection at an included price. Further in the purchase process, I was offered the option to pay for seat selection, and since I'm cheap, I decided not to pay the extra $75 for an aisle seat, and to instead play seat roulette. And boy, did I lose at seat roulette today. Today we are at the Oslo Airport in Oslo, Norway. We're flying across the Atlantic with Norse Atlantic today. I've been excited to try this airline because I've heard a lot of good things. And here we are. I've just checked in. You cannot check in online with this airline. You have to check in at the airport 4 hours before your flight. And unfortunately, when I did go to check in, since this airline wants you to pay for a seat, and I decided not to do that just to see what I get, just to give it more of a real travel experience. I got the last seat, which isn't a middle seat, surprisingly. However, the seat that I did get is broken. I was informed in check-in that this seat does not recline, and on a 10-hour flight, that could be an extreme disadvantage, especially in these premium economy seats where the person in front of me is going to be basically right on my lap. I talked to the agent. There's not really anything they can do, and it's not really their fault. But the only thing the airline is offering me at this point is a $50 voucher. So we're going to continue on to this flight. We're going to take the seat, and we'll see how this flight is, even with a broken seat. So today we're going to get the real Norse Atlantic experience. Admittedly, I was really looking forward to reclining and trying to nap for a bit on my flight. But I was reassured by the gate agent that if a seat did open up due to somebody not making the flight, that I'd be offered the first option to move seats after boarding. This is a promise that they weren't quite able to follow through on, but we'll touch on that later. With my hopes dashed, it's time to head through security, past the labyrinth of shops in the airport, past passport control, and over to my gate. Walking through the airport, I'm in awe. I've been through this airport before, but like many Scandinavian airports, Oslo really did an excellent job in planning this airport out. It feels so modern and open, and for once, I don't feel cramped. There's plenty of space between me and the other passengers. If you're hoping to lay low in a lounge while you wait for your flight, there aren't many lounge options in the Oslo airport. The outfit that runs the airport, Avinor, tends to like running their own lounges, and while there was an option to buy a reduced price lounge day pass directly from Norse, after reading the reviews, I decided to save the money and buy myself a meal elsewhere in the airport. After a delicious burger from a restaurant in the airport, I made my way through passport control and onto my gate. I originally felt like the terminal boards telling us to head to the gate an hour before planned departure was a bit excessive, but this is what I was met with when I got to my gate. The line for the secondary screening area is absolutely out of control. There were only 2 people checking documents for all the passengers on my flight, and unlike the check-in desk, there is no priority lane at the gate. I am at my gate waiting to get on the plane. This is the case with a lot of flights coming to the United States. There's a secondary screening process, and the line is very long, and they have everybody crowd in this very tiny kind of secondary waiting area. And I'm going to take my chances, get on a little later, let everybody get settled, and not have to be corralled in that small area, because this is the case with a lot of buildings in Norway. Even though the weather outside is very nice this time of year, it's very warm inside the buildings because none of them have air conditioning, and they also don't have any opening windows. So I'm going to sit here for a minute and take my chances getting on that flight. Once boarding started, the waiting area quickly cleared out. However, the passengers who boarded and left the waiting area didn't make it on the plane for quite some time. Most seemed to be stuck on the jet bridge, waiting to board. The boarding process here kinda just seemed like the gate crew couldn't be bothered to wait for the plane to board. As I could clearly see that the jet bridge wasn't clearing out, I chose to wait in the waiting area until the gate agents forced all remaining passengers onto the plane. It seems like Norse Atlantic contracts their gate agency here through Widerøe. I'm not quite sure why we were forced onto the plane so quickly though, because despite the haste at which we were pushed onto the jet bridge, the plane was not boarded with the same speed, and this just resulted in me waiting on a very hot jet bridge for a very long time. This boarding may actually be the slowest plane boarding in recorded history, but I'll have to get back to you once I check on that record later. On the bright side, as I sat on the glass jet bridge, I had a great opportunity to watch these Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engines spool up before I stepped on board, turned left, and headed towards my seat to see just how broken it was. The premium cabin on Norse Atlantic Airways 7879 fleet features 8 rows of seats arranged in a 2-3-2 layout, which is fairly standard in premium economy cabins. What is not standard is the 43 inches of pitch that Norse Atlantic offers. That's a whole extra 5 inches of pitch beyond the industry standard. The almost excessive amount of legroom offered with the 56 premium seats in the cabin is where Norse really shines against the competition. Behind the premium economy section, Norse also offers an additional 282 seats in a 3-3-3 configuration with a standard pitch of 32 inches. I arrive at my seat to find a pillow and a blanket laid out on a drab gray leather-esque seat. Just as I mentioned before, the first thing I noticed was the amount of space that I have in my seat. Not only is there ample legroom, but there's also plenty of elbow room for me, even with my wide 24-inch or 61-centimeter shoulders. As far as the broken seat issue is concerned, yes, the seat I am in currently doesn't recline. The lever actuating the reclining function is very much inoperable. However, the leg rest still works. And not only does the leg rest pull out from the seat, it extends as well. And even with my long legs, I'm still able to stretch all the way out in the leg rest. This is a nice touch, as I found my legs to be longer than the leg rest on similar premium economy products. Aside from the broken recline of the seat, the only other major issue with my seat is a small tear on the seat back pocket. While this is certainly not a major issue, it does make it so that I can't stow large items in the seat back pocket, which I most certainly would have done otherwise, because aside from that, these seat back pockets are absolutely massive. These seats feature a fairly standard tray table that extends from the armrest, which can be either presented as a half tray table for snacks and drinks or folded all the way out as a tray table for meal service. On the shared armrest between my seat and the seat next to me, there is a small drink tray, which I soon put to use as the flight crew offered a welcome beverage of water or apple juice. Below the drink tray, there is a small entertainment screen that pulls out from the armrest and can be used on the ground or in the air, but must be stowed for taxi, takeoff, and landing. Norse offers a small selection of movies and TV shows for entertainment, and as a premium passenger, headphones are provided, though I opted to use my own headphones, which plugged into the standard headphone jack. The entertainment screen can also be used to access the marketplace, where on-demand beverages or food can be ordered. As a premium passenger, drinks are included in my ticket and can be ordered at any time, but I'll touch more on this later. Once airborne, I learned that there were in fact empty seats on this flight. Unfortunately, the ground staff did not communicate my seat issue with the flight crew, and when I asked if I could switch seats, the flight crew were completely unaware that my seat was broken. This also meant that despite being assured that I would have the first pick of seats if there were any empty seats, this was not the case, and many other passengers had already taken it on themselves to switch seats. Thankfully for me, the flight crew were able to arrange a seat swap, and I was able to switch into a seat that was actually able to recline, and I did so just as the flight crew came around with the meal service. The meal on tonight's flight looks like any other economy meal, plated on a plastic tray and wrapped in foil with wooden cutlery. The food itself was actually pretty good. I had a chicken dish with potato puree, a smoked salmon appetizer, and a chocolate cake for dessert. The food quality was really top notch, the chicken was moist and flavorful, and the chocolate cake really served as a nice capstone for the meal. While the wooden cutlery is a little cheap, these little plastic Norse branded salt and pepper shakers are a quirky touch that seems very on brand for Norse. Despite this being a low cost carrier, at least in the premium cabin, there's no shortage of Norse branded items. During my meal, I was served a glass of wine, and halfway through the meal, the flight crew came around and asked if I'd like another. Throughout my flight, this crew have provided an absolute top-notch level of service. I'm certainly not feeling like I'm flying on a low-cost carrier this afternoon. With the meal service behind me, I still have a full 7 hours before we land in Miami. I thought about using the cute Norse-branded eye mask and earplugs to sink back into my seat for a short nap, but I've always found that with these daytime westbound flights, that's a little hard to do. So instead of a nap, I'll just sink back into the deep recline of this seat and watch a movie. And when I say deep recline, I mean it. These seats recline a full 12 inches. That's so far back that I actually had to sit up more to be able to see my movie. If you're the kind of person who enjoys an afternoon nap during a daytime flight, then these seats will be just perfect for you. You know what would go great with a movie? Something to sip on. So let's test out the cafe function of my entertainment screen and order a drink. Let's find out if this is simply a good idea in theory or if it actually works. There you have it, 4 minutes and 45 seconds. It only took 4 minutes and 45 seconds from the time that I selected order for the drink to arrive at my seat. Low-cost carrier aside, that is a level of service that can hold its own against any airline. Let's head up to the front of the cabin and check out the lavatory on this Norse Atlantic 787. There are 2 lavatories for the 56 passengers in the premium cabin. While there isn't anything that is particularly special with Norse Atlantic's lavatory, it really is just your standard 787 lavatory. I will say that when I visited it around 8 hours into this flight, it was still very clean, and that's something that is not often the case on longer flights. Back at my seat, it's about an hour before we land in Miami, and cabin crew are serving the second meal service. While this meal is once again plated like a standard economy meal, one thing that sets this meal apart is while most carriers would offer a sandwich or something light at this point in the flight, Norse Atlantic has plated an entire meal. Today I have a couscous salad with chicken, yogurt, chocolate mousse, and a few chocolates. Once again, the food quality is very good, but beyond that, it speaks wonders that Norse Atlantic puts out an entire meal service, once again breaking free of the low-cost carrier model and standing toe-to-toe with the big guys. So the next time you find yourself searching for a transatlantic flight, particularly a daytime flight, it may be worth your while to look at Norse Atlantic. While they might not be the most flashy airline, and sure, they had some issues today, I still think that Norse Atlantic packs a lot of value into their premium cabin price point. With premium tickets on Norse at around the same price point as economy tickets on major airlines, they're hitting way above their weight class in terms of their level of service. Thanks for coming along with me today. If you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe so I can take you with me on my future travels. Until I see you next time, have a stellar time in the skies, and so long for now.